Alex Eala is carrying the Philippines into America, but this time pride arrives with expectation. Only days ago, she stood inside Malacanang Palace as a national hero. Her family watched as the Philippine president praised her discipline, her composure, and the history she created at Wimbledon. Now the ceremony is over. The applause is fading. And the American hard courts are waiting. In Washington, the flag beside her name cannot protect her second serve. It cannot stop an opponent from attacking. It cannot make a tight score feel less dangerous. But it can remind Eala why the journey mattered before the world began watching. So, will the support of an entire country make her stronger? Or will every mistake begin to feel larger because millions are emotionally invested in what happens next? That is the battle hiding inside her return to America. Washington will test more than her forehand, movement, and endurance. It will test whether Eala can carry national pride without allowing national expectation to tighten her game. America has already seen her create history. In 2022, Eala arrived at the US Open as a teenager with a dream that still felt larger than her ranking and larger than anything Philippine tennis had achieved before. She defeated Lucy Havlikova 6-2, 6-4 inches the junior final. That victory made her the first player from the Philippines to win a junior Grand Slam singles title. For Eala, it was the greatest trophy of her young career. For Filipino fans, it was evidence. A player from the Philippines could enter one of the largest tennis events in the world and finish alone at the top. At that stage, the meaning around Eala was mostly possibility. She was still young enough to be judged as a developing player. People could celebrate the result without demanding that she repeat it immediately against experienced professionals. She had time to grow, time to struggle, time to discover how different the professional tour would become. The junior title opened a door. It did not make the next stage easy. Professional opponents moved faster. They attacked weaknesses sooner. They recognized patterns after only a few games. A shot that produced winners at junior level could become an invitation for an experienced player to take control. Eala had to improve while carrying a title that made progress look inevitable from the outside. That is one of the difficult consequences of making history at a young age. The achievement becomes a promise in the minds of other people. Every result afterward is compared with the future they have already imagined. Eala kept moving through that transition. There were difficult draws. There were matches where good tennis still ended in defeat. There were technical problems that required patience instead of attention. The path did not move at the speed of the headlines. Then Miami arrived in 2025. Eala entered the tournament ranked around number 140. She needed a wild card. Few people expected her to remain in the draw long enough to become one of the defining stories of the event. Then she defeated Jelena Ostapenko. She defeated Madison Keys. Then she faced Iga Swiatek. Swiatek was one of the most dominant players on the WTA tour. Eala defeated her 6-2, 7-5. Suddenly, the junior champion from the Philippines was no longer only a future possibility. She was defeating major champions in the present. Eala reached the semi-final of a WTA 1000 event. American audiences watched her move from promising junior to a genuine threat on the main tour. Miami changed what the tennis world believed she could become. It also changed the level of expectation around every tournament that followed. Before that run, Filipino fans were supporting a young player trying to break through. Afterward, many began waiting for the next historic result. That difference matters. Support can give a player energy. Expectation can make ordinary setbacks feel larger than they are. A breakthrough builds confidence, but it can also leave a player chasing the public image created by one extraordinary week. If Eala expected every tournament to feel like Miami, normal competition could begin to feel disappointing. If fans expected another champion to fall every week, an ordinary loss could begin to look like failure. Eala understood that the tour would not pause for one beautiful result. The next opponent did not care how many famous names she had defeated. The next match still began at 0. That reality followed her into the rest of the season. Then came Eastbourne. Eala reached the first main tour singles final of her career. Another historic moment seemed close. She faced Maya Joint. The match moved into a deciding set. Then Eala reached championship point. Not once. 4 times. 4 opportunities to complete the first WTA singles title of her career. 4 moments when the finish line appeared close enough to touch. Joint survived each one. The match reached a final set tiebreak. Eala lost. The official result showed 1 defeat, but the 4 missed championship points were the details most likely to remain memorable. That result did not erase the progress. Reaching the final was another major step, but it also revealed how narrow the distance can become between a breakthrough and disappointment. 1 return. 1 decision. 1 ball landing a few inches differently. That is where expectation can become difficult. The public sees another historic run. The player remembers the points that did not finish the job. 4 missed championship points can quickly invite questions about closing matches under pressure. But 1 painful final cannot define an entire career. It can only reveal the next area that needs work. Eala still had to learn how to use disappointment without allowing it to become fear. She still had to return to practice and begin again. Then America tested her in a different way. At Miami in 2026, Eala faced Laura Siegemund in a match that lasted 3 hours and 20 minutes. Eala lost the opening set. The rallies became exhausting. Every game demanded patience. This was not the fast emotional rush of a famous upset. It was a physical and psychological struggle. Eala had to remain inside the match after the excitement disappeared. She survived. At that time, it became the longest WTA match of her career. That victory revealed something important about the player now arriving in Washington. Hard-court success is not always glamorous. Sometimes it means suffering for more than 3 hours against an opponent who refuses to give rhythm. Sometimes it means accepting that the match will not look beautiful. Sometimes it means finding enough energy for 1 more return when both players are already exhausted. That type of victory may not spread across social media like an upset over a champion. It may be more useful for building a full season. Washington is only 1 stop in a demanding American campaign. More heat will follow. More travel will follow. More physical stress will follow. Opponents will know that extending rallies may be one of the best ways to test Eala. National support can lift her emotionally. It cannot recover her legs. The crowd can create energy. It cannot shorten a 3-hour match. Eala must carry the meaning of representing the Philippines while also making cold professional decisions about recovery, scheduling, and energy. Then Wimbledon changed the scale of everything again. Eala arrived in London with more experience, more belief, and more attention than ever before. She reached the 3rd round and faced Swiatek. This time, Swiatek was the defending Wimbledon champion. The match took place on center court. The opening set lasted 84 minutes. Swiatek created 2 set points. The tiebreak reached 9 points all. The history surrounding the moment was enormous. Eala made the task small. 1 point. 1 return. 1 decision. That was the most revealing part of the match. Her composure suggested that she had learned to separate the meaning of the moment from the task of playing the next ball. She did not need to deny what the match meant to the Philippines. She only needed to stop that meaning from deciding the shot. Eala stayed aggressive. She trusted the patterns that had carried her through the set. Then she won the tiebreak 11 points to 9. The crowd reacted as if the emotional peak of the match had already arrived. But Eala still had another set to play. She returned to the baseline and kept working. She broke early. Then she broke again. She completed the victory in straight sets. Wimbledon did not prove that pressure had disappeared. It showed that pressure could be directed. There is an important difference between playing with national pride and playing through fear of disappointing a nation. Fear makes the racket feel heavier. Purpose reminds a player why the work mattered before the scoreboard became important. Fear asks what everyone will say after a loss. Purpose brings attention back to the next point. At Wimbledon, Eala appeared to find that balance. She embraced the importance of the occasion without allowing the occasion to control every decision. That victory became one of the greatest moments in Philippine tennis. It also raised the standard surrounding everything that would follow. Eala entered the 4th round against Jasmine Paolini. She lost the opening set. She responded by winning the 2nd. She reached a deciding set with the quarterfinal close enough to imagine. Eala created 10 breakpoint opportunities. She converted 3. Paolini created 9. She converted 4. The difference was small. That made the lesson valuable. Creating chances is not enough at the highest level. A contender must finish more of them. Wimbledon showed the ceiling of Eala. It also showed the details that still separate a historic run from an even deeper one. Now she arrives in Washington ranked number 28 inches the world. That rise is extraordinary. She began 2025 near number 147. She climbed into the top 100. Then the top 50. Now she stands inside the top 30. The tennis improved. The story around the tennis changed too. At number 147, a close loss against an established opponent can be described as progress. At number 28, the same loss may be described as disappointment. The match can look identical. The reaction changes because of the number beside the name. Eala must avoid playing for that number. The ranking is evidence of progress. It is not a fragile object she must protect during every rally. Trying to defend a reputation can remove the freedom that helped create it. Washington will test whether she can remember that. The first opponent may not be a famous champion. That could make the match more difficult. Against a superstar, the danger is obvious. Adrenaline arrives naturally. The crowd understands the stakes. Eala can enter as the hunter. Against a lower-ranked opponent, the emotional balance changes. The opponent may have nothing to lose. She can attack every second serve. She can swing freely on break point. She can chase the biggest victory of her season without worrying about what defeat might mean. That freedom once belonged to Eala. Now someone else may carry it onto the court against her. Washington may ask Eala to do something psychologically harder than shocking another champion. Win a match that people believe she should win. That is the real transition from breakthrough star to contender. Most fans measure progress through dramatic victories. A young player defeats a Grand Slam champion. The crowd erupts. The clip spreads everywhere. The ranking rises. But a stable top 30 career is not built only on nights like that. It is built through matches that never become famous. An uncomfortable opening round. A first set filled with errors. A dangerous opponent ranked below you. A service game where confidence disappears. A match where the best tennis never arrives, but the player still finds a way to survive. Those victories may reveal more than another upset. When a player faces the favorite, courage can come naturally. When a player becomes the favorite, courage often means accepting that the match may become ugly. The timing may feel wrong. Easy returns may land in the net. The first set may disappear. Then the player must decide whether to remain patient or begin chasing the version everyone saw at Wimbledon. This is where breakthroughs can become unstable. A player experiences one extraordinary tournament and begins believing every match must feel extraordinary. She expects the same energy. The same clean winners. The same emotional intensity. When normal tennis returns, it can feel like something has gone wrong. Nothing has gone wrong. That is what a season looks like. Some days create history. Other days require survival. The best players learn how to win both. Washington will place several pressures in front of Eala. The first is the surface. Grass rewards quick reactions, low bounces, and the confidence to attack before the point becomes complicated. The hard courts in Washington will offer a different rhythm. The ball will rise higher. Rallies may become longer. Defenders may recover one extra shot. A ball that ended the point on grass may return with more height and pace. Eala has already produced major results on hard courts. The surface itself is not unfamiliar. The transition is the challenge. She has moved from Wimbledon into celebrations, travel, public appearances, and preparation for a different environment. The feet must adjust. The timing must change. The body must prepare for longer exchanges. One slowly end dart can become dangerous. One loose service game can change the emotional direction of an opening round match. The second pressure is preparation. Every opponent now has more footage. Before the biggest breakthroughs, Eala could still surprise players with the speed of her first strike and the direction of her forehand. That advantage is smaller now. Coaches can study the serve locations. They can examine the return position. They can identify the direction Eala prefers when the rally becomes tense. They can look for the moments when she steps forward. They can also look for the moments when patience begins to disappear. The public learns the story. The tour learns the habits. Opponents may attack the second serve earlier. They may extend rallies and force Eala to create pace from uncomfortable positions. They may refuse to give her the speed she redirected so effectively at Wimbledon. They may study the missed break points against Paulini and ask what happens if Eala is forced to win through a pattern she does not prefer. That creates a new question. Does she already have a second solution? Can she change direction when the first plan stops working? Can she win through patience when aggression does not create immediate control? The third pressure is the crowd. Filipino-American fans may transform Washington into something close to a home environment. Flags may appear in the stands. Her name may echo through the stadium. That support can help Eala find energy after a long rally. It can remind her that the journey matters beyond ranking points. But a crowd that comes mainly to watch one player also makes every change in emotion visible. Excitement rises after a winner. Anxiety enters after a double fault. Silence can feel heavier when the match begins moving in the wrong direction. Eala must learn to receive the energy without absorbing the fear behind it. She cannot play every point while trying to protect thousands of people from disappointment. That would create a responsibility no athlete could completely satisfy. She can represent the Philippines without believing that one defeat dishonors the country. She can appreciate the fans without carrying every reaction into the next rally. She can feel connected to home while keeping her attention on the court. That balance may decide how freely she plays. The strongest version of national pride does not demand perfection. It provides identity. It reminds Eala where the journey began. It connects her to the family that supported her and the young players who now believe a global tennis career is possible. Pressure becomes dangerous only when that reminder turns into fear of disappointing everyone watching. Washington will reveal which feeling controls the tight moments. Imagine Eala loses the first 3 games. The opponent begins believing. The crowd grows quieter. Eala knows she is ranked higher. She knows people expect a response. She knows an early defeat would not erase Wimbledon, but it could create immediate questions. Does she stay patient? Or does she try to repair the entire match with one spectacular shot? Pressure does not always create fear. Sometimes it creates speed. A player attacks too early. She tries to finish rallies before they are ready to end. She starts thinking about what the result means instead of what the next ball requires. That is the danger Eala must avoid. She does not need another viral performance to prove that Wimbledon was real. She needs to complete the work in front of her. The most important victory in Washington may look ordinary. Imagine she wins 6 games to 4 and 7 games to 5. No historic tiebreak. No defending champion. No global shock. Just 2 difficult sets managed with patience. That result may not become a famous highlight. It could reveal that Eala understands the responsibility attached to her ranking. She can accept an uncomfortable match. She can adjust when the first plan fails. She can finish an opponent who already knows her patterns. She can win without demanding that every point look spectacular. That is how a breakthrough becomes a career. Defeating a champion reveals the ceiling. Routine victories build the floor. The best players need both. We already know how well Eala can play when everything connects. She can defeat Swiatek on center court. The next question is different. How poorly can she play and still win? Can she survive when the forehand is late? Can she hold serve when the first serve percentage drops? Can she stay calm after wasting several break points? Can she solve a match without needing another historic performance? Those questions define an elite career. A top 30 player does not dominate every week. She prevents an average day from becoming an early defeat. She accepts that the match is difficult. She adjusts. She waits for the opening. Then she takes it. Washington will not decide whether Eala deserves to represent the Philippines. She has already answered that through years of work and historic results. The tournament will test whether she can use that identity as a foundation instead of carrying it as a burden. The flag beside her name does not demand victory in every match. It represents possibility. It represents the junior champion who made history in New York. It represents the player who defeated major champions in Miami. It represents the competitor who survived more than 3 hours on a hard court. It represents the calm she found when the Wimbledon tiebreak reached 9 points all. Those memories do not guarantee success. They provide evidence that Eala can handle different forms of pressure. Now she must connect those qualities across an entire week. A strong tournament will require more than one type of tennis. One opponent may attack the serve, another may defend for hours. Another may remove pace and force Eala to create every opening. A title run demands solutions across several different matches. Eala has already beaten champions. She has reached a WTA 1000 semi-final. She has reached a main tour final. She has reached the second week of Wimbledon. She still has not won a main tour singles title. That does not make her rise less impressive. It reveals the next step. A great victory proves that the highest level exists inside a player. A championship proves that the player can reach enough of that level across several days. Washington may begin showing whether Eala is ready for that challenge. Success does not have to mean lifting the trophy. It may begin with one difficult victory. One match where the serve disappears but she remains calm. One match where an opponent studies her patterns and she finds another solution. One match where the crowd becomes nervous and Eala refuses to absorb that fear. Those moments will show whether Wimbledon created a temporary feeling or a lasting change. America has already seen Eala carry Philippine tennis into history. It saw her win the Junior US Open. It saw her defeat champions in Miami. It saw her survive a long physical battle 1 year later. Now America will see her under a different kind of pressure. She is no longer arriving only with possibility. She is arriving with proof. Proof that she can compete with champions. Proof that her game belongs near the highest level. Proof that a player from the Philippines can change the conversation inside major tournaments. But proof creates expectation. The world no longer asks whether Eala has potential. It asks how far she can go. Washington is only the first answer. More hardcourt tournaments will follow. More opponents will study her. More fans will fill the stands. More matches will test whether she can remain free while representing something larger than herself. She will win some of them. She will lose some of them. Her connection to the Philippines will remain. That may be the most important truth. Representation does not disappear when the scoreboard turns against a player. It continues through difficult weeks. It continues through technical changes. It continues every time a young Filipino player watches Eala walk onto a court that once seemed unreachable. Eala does not need to win every match to prove that she belongs. She needs to keep entering the challenge without allowing expectation to take away the courage that brought her there. She first came to America carrying possibility. Now she returns carrying belief. Washington will test whether that belief can survive an ordinary afternoon. Can Eala stay patient when the match lacks the electricity of center court? Can she adjust when the opponent already knows the plan? Can she use national pride as energy without turning it into fear? Those questions matter more than another viral highlight. Elite tennis is not only about how great a player looks on the best night of her life. It is about how difficult she remains to defeat when the timing is imperfect and the pressure belongs to her. The American hardcourts have already revealed the talent of Eala. Now Washington may reveal the player she is becoming. Subscribe to follow the next chapter. Because Eala is not arriving in America as a secret, she is arriving as a target. And the way she carries that new reality may define what happens next.